You've been through hell and back. Making the shift from the battlefield to civilian life can feel like navigating uncharted territory. Finding a job is one thing, rediscovering your purpose is another. You crave that sense of mission, that clarity under pressure, but out here everything feels like a never ending fog. Leadership doesn't come with a rank anymore, and adversity, it doesn't come with a warning. And today we're going to be talking with Michael Allison, a Marine Corps veteran, Purple Heart recipient, and CEO of the Adversity Academy. He's here to show you how to turn life's toughest moments into fuel for success. We're going to break down real-world leadership, mental resilience, and the mindset shift you need to lead at any level, whether in business, family, or just life itself. If you're looking for direction, this is it. Stick around because this episode could change the way you see adversity forever. And before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed at driveonpodcast.com/subscribe. You'll get my 5 favorite episodes sent straight to your inbox. No fluff, just the best insights to help you drive on. Now let's get into it. Michael, I want to welcome you to the show. Really glad to have you here.
Man, Scott, thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with a fellow veteran too as well, man. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So tell us, how your time in the Marines and your experiences in combat have shaped your approach towards adversity and leadership. I'm sure that played a big role in your approach going forward, right?
Absolutely, most definitely, man. Being in the space that I've been in for over 20 years in leadership in regards to serving in the military and working in a corporate space and now with my company, it really has taught me a lot, so my time in the Marine Corps was foundational in shaping the resilience and leadership philosophy. When I think about the combat zone, it's always high stakes, right? And every decision comes down to some real serious consequences that's always going to be tied to that. So I think that these experiences taught me what is it like to be adaptable whenever facing these circumstances, what it's like to have some emotional composure in regards to knowing how to deal with things in tough times. And then also the biggest component I would say that's tied to that too as well is that trust within your team. I think facing adversity becomes a way where you have to learn how to clarify things under pressure, and you cannot have too many things out here that's going to cause confusion as well too. So fostering some of those unyielding type of mindset, that focus helps you solve problems much more faster when you have some of those things are aligned as well too.
Yeah, and you were talking about combat and trust and all of those things in those situations, and I think anyone who's served in combat certainly knows what you're talking about. You got to be able to trust the people around you, and if you can't trust them, then you're going to have some problems with situations when if you can't trust them in a garrison environment, how are you going to trust them when things get really heated, right? So and you of all people should probably understand this. As a recipient of a Purple Heart, you've been in situations where you got to lead under extreme pressure. What are some lessons that the listeners, service members, veterans, or anyone who is listening really can pick up from that type of experience that you were just talking about?
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to someone that has served, being a Purple Heart recipient, yes, I am proud that I served, and I was one that was injured and got blown up by a car bomb, and shrapnel injured me from that car bomb, knocked me out, which gave me a traumatic brain injury to it as well. But when I look at it and I think about it and some of the principles that I've gained from serving, when I designed this company and wanted to create this company, I always looked at what it was like from a leadership standpoint and what are some of the things that stood out for me as a leader. And when you're trying to lead under extreme pressure, it requires you to be extremely decisive. But also what I learned was that you have to understand your team. We were speaking about trust earlier. So that comes with another level of empathy as a leader too, as well, understanding your people. And I think that leads down to the trust aspects of things. As a Purple Heart recipient, I've learned the importance of just prioritizing your well-being and just remaining mission focused, which is something that I always keep top of mind for myself, for my company, and the people that I'm serving to as well. And I think whenever you do those things and start making it important, start prioritizing some of those things, that's when you could start worrying about and focusing on your team. You could work on your colleagues and all those people that you're serving at an extremely high level. I think building the trust and the communication under high pressure situation creates an environment where people feel like they're supported. You're fostering much more of a stronger and much more resilient community too as well, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know just before deploying to Afghanistan, when I was going over there, we did all sorts of training for situations that may or may not come up, right? But a situation like you just talked about with yourself getting blown up, on occasion, a vehicle will roll over, especially if there's a bomb going off underneath it, the vehicle is going to roll over. You don't really want the first time figuring out how to get out of a vehicle that's just rolled over to be the time that the bomb is still smoking on the ground just underneath it. So we did rollover drills, right? And we had to practice that to figure out, how do I unbuckle myself? And, oh yeah, by the way, I'm upside down. My head's going to hit the ceiling. And then how do I find the door? And, meanwhile, I got my rifle, like the butt of my rifle is like in my face now. And I got to struggle my way out of there. And nobody going through that, I don't care if it's their first time or 100th time, no one comes out of that vehicle gracefully. It's like it's a pretty much a nightmare. But you wanted to be able to do that so that in the back of your head you have some of those unknowns, those things that you just wouldn't have known had you not gone through that experience at least once. And thank God it's in a safe environment where the the ammo cans weren't real. They're, foam or whatever. So that, okay, I got hit in the face with an ammo can. Okay, good. We got to tie those things down so that doesn't happen again. Right. So you prep for those types of things. And when you're in a real life situation, then you're able to handle that thing a little bit easier than had it been the very, very first time. And I think from a leadership perspective, that there's some important takeaways there, because you don't want your team to be struggling to figure out how to deal with this high stakes situation. I don't suspect that we're talking about, IEDs or anything like that in that kind of situation, but to a business, there are high stakes situations. You might lose a high value client or something if your team isn't, on top of their game and know what to expect and know what to, present to that potential client. And how do they handle it? So running them through some drills like that might be beneficial to make sure that, okay, when these situations come up, as rare as they may be, you'll know what to do when these things come up, right? Does that kind of resonate with what you were talking about there?
Most definitely. I totally agree with that. One of the biggest things that I learned when I started was prior planning prevents piss poor performance, and understanding what that meant for us to always plan and prepare for every single circumstances, every single scenario or situation that could be ideally possible in the situation that we're about to get into. I remember when I came back from Japan and we went out to California, and I'm there with Captain Venning and I'm there with Third Tracks, and he comes out to us and tells us, boys, it's time for us to invade Fallujah and go into Iraq. And understanding the magnitude and the seriousness of what was about to take place, this is when we started training and preparing for every single thing that could actually happen, being Amtrackers and going into that situation, and then taking all of the information that was given to us and seeing how we could apply that. And being fully prepared in regards to going to those circumstances and situations made us much more confident in regards to reacting to whatever may come to us when we're over there, for us to be successful in combat, especially in that high stress environment, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing with, there's so many things that we do in the military that likely few people really needed to actually utilize. We go into like the gas chamber, in basic training, and subsequently, if you're getting deployed, a lot of times you have to go through that kind of training all over again. I never had to wear my gas mask in combat. Like, thank God I never had to wear it, right? But I still had the confidence to know that, hey, that thing's there to protect me, and it's going to keep that gas out should that inevitable thing or that unfortunate thing happen. It's going to help me, and so I had that bit of confidence. And we all need to be able to practice all sorts of different skills, whether it's in business or life or whatever. We got to practice these things. If I remember coming back from Afghanistan, I hadn't driven a car since I left for the training to go to Afghanistan. I didn't even drive any of the MRAPs or anything like that while we were over there. Somebody else was driving. I got back home. I got behind the wheel. I was like, this feels awkward. Like I hadn't done it in so many months. Like everything just felt weird, and so but that had been something at that point I had been doing for years and years, on a daily basis, and then I came back months later. I'm like, man, where is everything? Like this just feels awkward, and so it's important to keep training. Even though it may not be something that you need all the time, may not be 100% mission critical, but you want to stay on top of your game, right? So I think all of those things are pretty important. Now tell us about the unleadership and break the bottle, this challenge that you have. Tell us about that and kind of how that fits into this whole equation.
Yeah, definitely, man. So these two concepts was birthed from my own personal journey in life and in business. I do believe that personal development and professional development do correlate and you cannot separate them. And I say that as in when my personal life was going great, my professional life was going a little bit in flux and it caught up with me. And I was saying I need to have a better balance in regards to how I structure my personal life and my professional life. And I say that when the unleadership aspect started was when I was in Iraq, there was a guy by the name of Pluckett, and at the time he was a lance corporal, and he was a lance corporal. And if you think of like traditional leadership aspect in regards to like a company or an organization, if I'm the CEO or I'm the executive for a company, most people when they start in as an entry level employee, they think that leadership just stays at the top and I serve no other purpose in regards to just taking orders and doing whatever I'm told to do. And I just move around like a robot. And,
Yeah.
and that philosophy of the leadership is looking at untraditional ways of looking at leadership as in respecting the fact that every single person at every single level does have a level of leadership capabilities that they could have within themselves and within that organization. And I say that in regards to Puckett. When we was over there in Iraq, as a lance corporal, you could think of the rank structure as corporal, sergeant, staff sergeant, gunnery sergeant, you name it. And at his level, he was the assistant to our Corporal Combs on his track. But we were in a firefight and Corporal Combs was getting shot at. And eventually he had to go and save Corporal Combs' life. And if he was to not take it upon himself to act and react as a leader in regards to saving his life, then that whole situation could have been a whole lot worse. But Puckett was the one that grabbed him, saved him, and then there were other people that was stuck as they were getting ambushed, and he saved a whole bunch of other people's lives. And from there, that really taught me the aspect of every single person at every single level does have the capability to become a leader and actually utilize those type of leadership skills and abilities that they do have. But it's within us as leaders, either at a senior executive level, to start empowering people and give them that trust that we're speaking about earlier in regards so other people could lead. So that's where it comes in at, or whenever we work with companies and organizations, how we could look at things where things could be streamlined, where things could be filtered through and given other people different leadership responsibilities throughout their organization. When I look at the break the bottle concept, I looked at things in my life where things were not going well for myself when I grew up as a kid and was going through a whole bunch of adversities, either getting bullied, having some things occur to me in the Boy Scouts. And then when I served in the military, I dealt with PTSD and a whole bunch of other things when I got out because so my life kind of transitioned and it was spiraling downwards. And I had to work on myself in regards to having that transition to better myself because it led me down to the brinks of trying to commit suicide and taking my life. And from there, and that's when I started saying, how can I start participating in my own rescue and change my life? And I had to start changing the decisions that I was making to go in the direction I wanted to go in and get into the destination of where I wanted my life to be. And I realized that I was one decision away from changing my life, one decision away from going in the direction that I wanted to go, one decision away to actually going after what I want to the destination of where I wanted to be in life. And that's where the framework came in at in regards to some of the things that we structure. So we formulated that into our leadership development programs for coaching. We formulated that into our workshops. And we formulated that into some of the keynote speeches that I do deliver to it as well.
Yeah, yeah. I want to go back to the unleadership thing, because as you were talking, it got me thinking of something that we did, kind of was instilled in us, early on in the military. Is, if you see something that's wrong or out of place, or something needs addressing, you don't need to wait around to be told to go fix that situation, right?
Absolutely.
In the case of that firefight that you were talking about, where you had a lance corporal who just kind of took it on himself to say, well, there's somebody who's getting pinned down and they need help. I'm going to go help them. He didn't have to wait for an order to be given to say, hey, you are the one who now has to go do that. I think it's important that we kind of shift our mindsets on some of this, and we go and do the things that need to be done, whether someone tells you to do it or not. If you see like news footage sometimes of like a car accident that takes place, and you have all like the onlookers who are standing around, and they're all just standing there watching, and it's like security video, like from a store nearby or something like that, and you just see people just standing there watching. Nobody's going to the car to see if the person needs help. Nobody's calling the police or an ambulance or any of that. They're just standing there. Well, they might have their phones out, but they're recording it because they want to post it on Facebook later or whatever. But they're not doing anything. Like nobody's. They almost have to like wait for somebody else to be like, hey, you call 911. Hey, come over here and help me get this person out. Like that type of thing is just we can't have that in your personal life, in your professional life. It doesn't matter. You got to be the type of person who just takes charge and says, hey, this needs doing, nobody else is doing it, I'm going to go do it. And when you look at like inside of a business, you have maybe an executive who's walking by, and maybe there's some trash on the floor, and they just walk by because, oh, well, it's not my job. Well, that sends a message to the whole rest of the company. It's like, well, if it's outside of your lane, that's not, you don't focus on that, right? That's a janitor's job or something like that. That's somebody else's job. Well, if that executive is the guy who stops and picks up the piece of trash on the floor and puts it in the garbage can, well, that's going to send a different message. It's like, okay, well, look for those things, those opportunities outside of my designated lane, whatever it is on my job description that I'm supposed to do. Look for those opportunities that might be able to help make an improvement somewhere along the way. And so, I love that example that you gave with the Lance Corporal who took it upon himself to go and help those people, because God only knows what would have happened had he not done that, right?
Absolutely, man. I'll add to that just a little bit, man. When I think about it, being that type of person in that leadership level, it's up to you to take action. And I think it's those inactions that actually causes a whole bunch of adverse things too as well. When you mentioned talking about like the person that walks past something inside of an office as a leader, that talks about the environment or the culture that you're creating for your organization, and what are some things that's tied to the expectations. I remember when
Yeah.
I first got to Iraq, one of the first signs that I saw was complacency kills. And if you create that level of complacency where this is status quo and this is how things are, then things will always stay that way. But if you're the person that decides to act and go into action, this is where you get the opportunity to go on your hero's journey and decide to make a difference and decide to go into action.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I kind of laughed as you were saying it, but complacency does kill, and it's more so than just on or more so than just in a combat zone. Complacency when you're driving your car. It's like, well, I always drive this way to work, and I get up early in the morning to go to work, and there's never any traffic or anybody walking on the street, so that stop sign, that's just optional. I don't need to really focus on that, right? Right. But then that one morning that you happen to blow through that stop sign, there happens to be a guy out for a morning jog or something, and you hit him, right? Because you were you just got
You got
complacent, and
complacent.
you're just like, oh, this is the way it always is, so it'll be okay. You really do have to stay on top of things to make sure that you aren't getting complacent, and that applies to all sorts of different areas of your life. Yes, for sure in combat. Yeah, complacency kills because I've driven down this road 100 times, and there's never been any IEDs or RPGs or anything like that I had to worry about on this road, so it'll be fine.
Right,
Well,
right,
until it's not. It is until it's not,
right.
and that's what you kind of do have to keep that mindset where today could be that day that
Always got to be
this is going to
vigilant,
be an
man.
issue. Exactly, but take it a step further now into your personal life. You're back home now, right? You you have a job, and I'm taking it for granted. Yeah, that job will be here because I have this job. Well, you might get laid off. You don't know what's might be happening with that company, right? And if you aren't doing things, planning for the future, savings, for retirement and things like that, putting some money aside for that rainy day, so that should you get laid off, you got a little padding there that you can live off of for a little while in until you find that next job. But getting complacent and just I'll just spend everything as it comes in, like um, that's not a great idea either, right? And so you can come up with so many different analogies and examples for how this fits into day to day life. But I think for most people, especially those who have served, they understand that complacency kills mindset, right?
A thousand
Um,
percent,
and it,
man.
yeah. Um, so we've talked a little bit about the type of work that you do and everything, but so you've launched multiple businesses, since getting out. Can you share a few strategies that uh, helped you in developing these businesses? Maybe it's pulling from your military history or some other things from your background. What are some things that helped you make these businesses a success?
Yeah, definitely. I would say there's two things that stuck out. I will be transparent with you, man. When I got out, that transition was not the easiest transition for me. I had to navigate things and try to figure things out. But once I did figure things out, one of the two things that stuck out in regards to like me starting the franchises and starting my own company and building these companies was mission alignment. I think having some clear goals and just having consistent communication, creating alignment with the accountability for myself, for my team, for the people that I was going to put together was one of the biggest core things in regards to what I valued. So when I wanted to create the Adversity Academy, the mission for me was to go out and empower people and serve people in regards to some of the things that I learned and developed to identify by myself and what I wanted to help empower other people's companies and organization and individuals too as well in regards to like what is important to them and understanding that. So I made sure that I was aligning my mission with other people's mission too as well, and then bringing those types of people into my organization and then working with people that are like-minded like myself where it's always beneficial. The next thing I would say to you would be the adaptability aspects of things in this world that we're in now. Things are shifting and things are changing. And when I was in the Marine Corps, you could sit around for 8, 10 hours, nothing happens, and all of a sudden you got to be up on the go, ready to move, type of thing. We used to call it hurry up and wait type of
Yeah.
situations and circumstances. But you have to be flexible and adaptable within on a dime, So we spoke about being prepared and always being prepared for scenarios and situations. So you never know what is really going to happen, but obviously you can always plan for those types of things. But you always got to be adaptable, and I think having that level of flexibility for unpredictable times, unpredictable changes, and things like that is a keen aspect in regards to just you being able to adapt to adversities and challenges and being much resilient for your team, for your organization, and for your company. And that's how I had to be. So when I got out, I worked for the government for a couple of years, and I was one of those people that was planning, knowing that I wanted to exit working for this company and start my own company. So for me, I said, hey, I want to start my own construction company, get into a franchise. And I planned my exit 6 months out. And once I did that, save up my money and put things in the places where I needed to put things at, I invested in a franchise, built that company up down here in South Florida. And the company did really great, did really, really well. And when I was doing that, I had the chance to put a team together and understand what it's like to really build a company, put a company together, and then getting the blueprint of what it's like to actually run a company, because understanding a franchise comes with a model in regards to kind of like plugging and playing what that looks like. That's when I felt much more of a calling in regards to what I truly need to be doing. And after running that franchise for several years, I sold the franchise, and that's what led me to building and creating the Adversity Academy. So I had to start adapting some of the skills that I learned from the military, adapting some of the skills that I learned when I was working on the railroad, when I was working for the government, when I was working at a university level, and seeing what are some of the things that I learned, what are some of the adaptable skills, what are some of the transferable skills that I could bring into this company in regards to getting it to the level where I need to build it and grow this company, where we could go out here and serve people. So I think that's one of the things that I had to do when it comes to adaptability. And then with what we were creating, what we were doing, innovation was on the rise. So we had to know how to incorporate what are some of the things that we could continuously grow with and be innovative with at the same time, simultaneously, in regards for us to not get stagnant, not get complacent or any of those things as we continue to grow too as well, man. So those are the two things that stood out for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you were talking, it got me thinking about how kind of the diversity of your experiences, the wide range, working government and all these other things that you did. Uh, I would imagine opened you up to a broader array of ways of doing things, right? And maybe that's not the most eloquent way of putting it, but I was a grunt, so deal with it. Um, um, you know, it opened you up to a lot of different ways of doing things, and so I gotta imagine that has kind of played a role in what you're doing now. In You're able to now go back to all those different experiences in different industries and different backgrounds and everything, and you're able to kind of pick little pieces from here and there and put them together and say, okay, this worked here, this didn't work there, this worked, this didn't work, and then you're able to kind of use those things to help you now in your future and continue to grow, right?
Absolutely, man. I think of all of the transferable skills. So when I got out of the military, for 8 years, I served and as an amphibious assault vehicle section leader. So I drove tanks for 8 years, operating and leading people. But there were so much skills that I learned in regards to what I was doing, in regards to like leading so many different troops and operating multi-million-dollar vehicles and those different types of things that's tied to that too as well. And then working with different officers when it comes to like training them and doing workshops and those types of things. So when I got out, I thought my skills was only going to be adaptable to work some in a somewhat similar space. So I ended up working on the railroad. And funny thing is, I worked on a railroad for 6 months, then I got laid off. And after I got laid off, I'm thinking, oh man, did I make a bad decision? And all of a sudden, the supervisor called me and said, "Hey, I saw the skills that you portrayed out here while you was working on the railroad. I think you'll be a great person for management." And he asked me, "Would I want a management position?" And I said, "Heck yeah, I want that position." So I took it. And from there, they sent me straight off to Atlanta to get into management. And this is when I saw a different scope and a different aspect of what it's like to see things from a top level as a senior executive within the company. And I have opportunity to run a railroad from Atlanta, Georgia, all the way down to Valdosta, Georgia, covering over 200 miles of territory, have over 250 employees working for me at 28 years old. And now I'm working with men that are in their 50s and their 60s. So this was much more diverse in regards to the adaptability of what I was doing, in regards to understanding the entire operations of working with your vendors, working with customers, working with employees, working with
Right.
the police department, working with the news for derailments and suicides. You name it. So it was a whole different aspect of what this opened up my door to, in regards to this learning these different types of things. And from there, man, my career transitioned. I went back to school, got my bachelor's degree, got my master's degree, and then I got an opportunity to go work in Washington, D.C., where I became an IT project manager. And now I'm building multi-million-dollar projects, and I'm putting some systems and softwares in the hospitals all across the globe. and to understand what it's like to know what is to take care of our veterans from that standpoint, and knowing the magnitude of the seriousness of what I'm dealing with when someone like myself has to now get a top secret clearance to understand what's going on in regards to how we serve our veterans, and how we work with our doctors, and how we work with insurance companies, how we're working with companies like your Microsofts, your Amazons, you name it, and how they're working with us was a bigger adaptable skills for me to learn, because all those things were transferable as I was going along the path. And then I had the opportunity to go work at Florida Atlantic University and work with our veteran community. But now I'm working, understanding what it's like to deal with the veteran community, the VA hospital, and understanding what it's like to utilize your GI Bill and help empower our veteran students, help empower their dependents and their families. And after I learned all of those skills, this is when I decided that I want to get into entrepreneurship, because I've learned so many skills, and now I could apply some of these things and take it into business too as well, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's a lot of times people get, I think like this kind of old school way of thinking where it's like, okay, you know, go to school, get whatever education you get, and then you're going to work in this job from now until you retire, and that's kind of like that mindset that people used to have. But things have shifted where people are moving jobs, a lot more frequently, and I think that's kind of a good thing to kind of stir the pot a little bit to get people from different companies, different industries, bring people in and getting all of those variety of experiences and have them be able to benefit some other companies, other industries, and even in this case now it's benefiting yourself with your business, and I'm sure you have people working for you and things like that, which it's helping those people as well. So I think that's a incredible thing, that you're able to take all these experiences and now you can apply them and kind of mesh them all together. It's pretty awesome. One topic that I don't think that we really covered too much is the focus on like mental wellness, mental health, that type of thing, and even resiliency. We talked a little bit about that, but talk to us about how the Adversity Academy helps, with enhancing folks with their mental wellness and resilience and that type of thing.
Yeah, so this is something that is extremely important to me. I struggle with my mental health when I got out of the service with PTSD and a traumatic brain injury. Got up to being on 13 different medications and trying to take my life after I was going through my second divorce. And this is when I said, you know what, let me understand the true concept and the aspects of like your brain, understanding what's going on with PTSD, and really understand what's going on with the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And this is when I realized that, you cannot separate either one of the two. And I think in regards to having that mindset and having that mentality as a leader, as a business owner, as a person that's trying to strive for greatness within your own personal life, you really got to tap into your mental health. So I think adversity actually does help develop that character about yourself, about your organization. So our program is centered around like fostering resilience. So how could we deal with tough times and tough situation? And the framework of tough things that we deal with is tied to the framework of the 3D methods of identifying the decisions and directions of where we're trying to go with our life. And whenever you get into that aspect of things, it teaches us how to start reframing things and start looking at challenges and looking at opportunities. I always had the mindset of a can-do attitude and not be someone that is defeated whenever adversity hit. And that's something that we incorporate in our training. And that's something that we instill into the leaders that we work with as well, too, in regards to scenario based and real life things that's going to actually or could potentially take place in your business or in your life. And how could you prepare for some of these things? How could you deal with some of these things? So it could be a family situation. It could be something that's going on within your business, your sales, your marketing. It could be your marriage, your divorce. It could be with your kids in school. When these are real life scenarios, real life things that could actually happen to you either in your personal life, either in your business, one of your employees, and those types of things. And how are you going to deal with some of these things? So these are some of the strategies and tools that we implement into our programs to help leaders get through some of their tough times and tough situations.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what we were talking about before about some of the training that you might need to do to help build some of that resilience. if you have never been in a certain scenario, I don't care how resilient you are, you're going to be like, a deer in the headlights, not knowing what to do. And when you have some experiences and stuff, that will start to build that resilience that you're talking about, I think. And so the more exposure you have to it, and I'm not saying, go and intentionally put yourself in adverse situations just for the practice of it, right? Um, but when you have exposure to those adverse situations, and what you do with that will help with the next adverse situation, because we're all going to have some adversity in our lives at one point or another. Things may be going great, but that may not last forever, right? So you have to kind of be prepared for that. But if you handle it with like a defeated attitude, or just look at it like you're the victim in a situation, well, you're going to probably look at all these adverse situations that come along as, or in that way. If you look at it as, well, this is an opportunity for growth. I can learn something from this. I can make improvements. I can do better, and I can grow from this. Well, you're probably going to come out a little bit better off than the other person that I was just talking about, right? So, those are the things that in my head, when you start talking about resilience and adversities and things like that, it's like, really, how are you dealing with those things? Like in the back of your head, what's that voice telling you?
I agree with you, man. I think about, whenever adversity hits, right, it's gonna hit on how do you manage stress, right? How are you gonna deal with some of these complexities? How is it going to affect your productivity? Because you're navigating through some of these things that is really gonna test you and see who you are. As I'm here talking with you, man, I remember a couple of weeks ago, this happened to me as the owner of my own company. I get the call that my dad cannot walk anymore. And now I'm trying to navigate that as my dad is going through this situation. I have a company to run. I have a son. I have a wife, all of these different things that I have to deal with. So these are real life things that are occurring in my own personal life. And this is now becomes a challenge. This was unexpected. I didn't plan for this or anything like that, right? But how am I going to react and how am I going to respond to this scenario and this situation and take care of it, right? So me as a leader have to start assessing these things and seeing what are some of the best case scenarios and what are some of the things, and create a roadmap and follow that roadmap and follow that plan and try to execute that to the best of my ability to continue to get my dad healthy, work with my doctors, my caregivers, my family members, to get him into the situation where he needs to be at, to get him back comfortable and get him back walking. Then I have to look at the scenario of my family. How can I get my son to school? How can I make sure that I have the support of everybody that's around me, that knowing that this could be potentially mentally stressful for me as well too. Then now I have this company and this organization that I have to run. I have customers, I have clients, I have interviews, I have all these things that I'm dealing with. So how can I be transparent with these people and work with them in regards to keeping things going, keeping the business going, and not injure or hurt our relationships or anything like that too as well. And I think this is where it shows your character, shows your resilience, shows you as a leader within your company organization that deal with some of these things. And these are some of the things that I had to navigate myself now, as a business owner. And this is what we had to do. We had to get my dad here, get him into the hospital, and get him back to where he's now home now, and he's now in therapy, and he's doing a whole lot better. This is something that I had to do with working with my clients and business partners to keep our business going and keep our business operating. This is something that I had to do in navigating with my son. My son tore his ACL and MCL, so part of that was taking him to physical therapy too as well after school. So we're trying to navigate all of these things and making sure that all of these things are taken care of on the home front too as well.
When it rains, it pours, right?
Absolutely, man.
you know, but that goes back to what you were talking about before, about making sure that you have the right people with the right values, the right team around you, right? And that's, I think that is true not just in business, but in any relationships that you have that you're entering into with people. You want to make sure that are these people going to be there, and are they going to be supportive of me when things go sideways, when those unexpected things come up, when I can't necessarily be 100% present for everything that they might be relying on me. Are they just going to, ditch me and run, or are they going to, stick around? and are they going to be helpful? Say, hey, you know what? Don't worry about this. This client, we'll take care of it. You go take care of your dad. Do what you got to do. Take care of your son. Do all the things that you needed to do, and we'll handle it. Don't worry about it. We got you. And now that things are kind of getting back to a better situation, with your dad and everything. I'm sure if the roles were reversed and they're like, hey, I had this emergency come up in my family, you'd probably be like, you know what? Don't even sweat it. Go take care of what you got to do, and I'll handle your stuff on this end. It'll be here when you get back. That type of thing. And if you didn't have that kind of relationship going into this, yeah, of course you're going to be stressed. You'd be like, this whole thing's going to come collapsing down around me because I got to take a day off. Like, like that would be awful. And so. So it's a good thing that you have that, but I think more importantly for the listeners who are maybe hopefully taking away something from this is like think about those people who are around you, and imagine a scenario where you have a family emergency. Maybe it's something like you described. You got to take some time to go take care of a parent or some other family member or something. Do you have those people in your life that would be like, hey man, we got you. You're good to go. Go take care of family first, and we'll hold down the fort until you get back. And if you don't, start thinking about like, okay, well, who are some of these people that I'm associating with that I maybe a business partner or maybe somebody else that's in your life. Who are these people? And if I can't rely on them, then really, what are they doing here, right?
Hey, I agree with you, man. And in the Break the Bottle program, in the last section, the destination, we talk about proximity and we talk about sustainability. And who are the people that's around you that's going to help hold you up whenever you get into tough times and tough situations, and start identifying those people and put those people in place and maintain a relationship with these people that you have in place, and make sure you're sharing value that is on both ends, regardless of you're pouring into them as much as they're pouring into you. Whenever you need them in a certain type of situation or circumstances, you could count on them too as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you don't want to make it one-sided where it's like, what can I get from that person, right? And only think of it that way.
Right.
But also, what can I provide to them? How can I be of service to them and benefit them? Because, yeah, sure, I may not mind that one time. This is the first time that you've come to me and said, hey, I need your help with something. I might be like, hey, you know what? Yeah, no problem. I got you, and I'll take care of it, right? But if next week you're coming back to me, and the week after, and the week after, and so on, I'm probably gonna be like, all right, at some point something's got to give,
right?
Right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
When are you taking something off of my back so that I can kind of catch up, because I've been carrying all your weight all this time. I don't mind doing it. Right? I said I would do it. I don't mind, but at some point something's got to give, and you got to be able to kind of reciprocate at some point too. So, but not that it necessarily has to be a scorekeeping thing either. But you want to make sure that you're not, like you said, you're not 100% taking advantage of that person either, right?
Absolutely, man. There's many ways. So, you don't have to keep scores or anything like that. And if someone do me a favor here, they have to do me a favor here. It's not always like that. Some of the simple basic things that you could do is actually just spend time with somebody. That's it.
Yeah,
Simply just spend time with somebody, and they'll value that so much, man. So when you just point it to
100%.
people, some simple things like that, it truly values a whole lot.
Yeah, absolutely. This conversation, I think, has been really great with just the way, seeing your mindset and how you've adapted from one role to the next, and been able to accumulate this knowledge as you've gone through all the different roles that you've served in over time, and until you've gotten to where you're at now. And I think that, a lot of people listening, we've had experiences similar, to yours, in that they are diverse. We've served in the military, then we got out and we did something that probably didn't go all that well at first, right? We had to deal with some things and get our lives straightened out, and maybe some things didn't go as smooth as we wanted it to, but we eventually got to a place where we kind of have things stabilized. Maybe we're starting to kind of sort of figure things out. But some of the experiences that you were talking about, I think really help drive home that we still got that leadership, from the military, whatever we learned, basically from day one in basic training, where you can carry that stuff all the way through, and you can continue using some of that stuff that you've learned, and just like that Lance Corporal that you were talking about, who just took it upon himself and took action when things needed to be done. It's like we can, nobody's stopping you from taking action. Like, you can go and do things and take initiative, and sometimes I think we forget about that. So I'm glad that you came on and were able to share your experiences and kind of what it is that you do. But for the listeners who want to find out more about your services and stuff that you offer, where can people go to find out more about you and what you do?
Yeah, definitely. You can find out more about me on my website, michaelwallison.com. And you could also learn about the workshops, the programs, my books, and all the services that we do have there. On social media platforms, you can find me at I am Michael W. Allison on social media as well, too. In regards to the Academy, where we have more of a diverse leadership development trainings and programs and curriculums and assessments, you can just go directly to the website, www.theadversityacademy.com.
Excellent. And I'll have those links in the show notes for the listeners so that they can check that out and get in touch with you. Maybe check out the Adversity Academy and figure out if that's something that's right for them. But I think for all the listeners, I definitely encourage you to check that out, because I feel like that's something that's going to definitely improve the lives of a lot of people. So check it out. Again, links will be in the show notes. Michael, thank you again for taking the time to come on the show. Really do appreciate you. Appreciate all that you do, all the hard work that you put in, and looking forward to hearing more great things coming out of you. I'm sure there's going to be a whole lot more. So we'll be in touch.
Hey man, thank you so much for having me here, Scott. It's been a pleasure.